That's hilarious. That cannot be the same question. Got it. Let's open up. Let's open up, open up. Let's open up, open up. Let's see if I'm where I'm supposed to be. Good afternoon. It is currently 3 o'clock. Hey guys, if you are seeing this, I would love it if you would leave a comment, say hello, whether it is live or Memorex. Is it live or is it Memorex? Let's see. It says I'm live. And or Memorex. Yay, I have sound. I was having some trouble with my microphone yesterday. Thought I was done for with this computer. But hey guys, today is the first day of our Marvelous March series. So over the next 2 weeks, we're going to be going over all the products that are used in our various levels at CC. And I want to start today with Scribblers, Foundations, and Essentials. Okay, so we're going to do Scribblers, Foundations, and Essentials today. And then each day we'll do 2 levels, A and B, 1 and 2, 3 and 4. And that will be at 3 p.m. every day this week. And then next week, we're going to do the same thing backwards at 8 a.m. So those of you who can't catch it this week, we're going to do 8 a.m. on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday next week. But we're going to start with 3 and 4. And then we're going to do 1 and 2, A and B, and then all of the Scribblers, Foundations, and Essential stuff. Okay. So I'm going to jump right in. You guys can watch this on the replay if you missed the beginning and you're just hopping in. My name is Nicole Thorne. In case you didn't know, I am the product spells. Let's just try this again. My name is Nicole Thorne, and I am the product sales specialist for Northeast and Northwest Georgia. So I usually just say for North Georgia. I have 4 children. All of them have been in CC, graduated my oldest from CC last year. I have a Rising Challenge A, so she's on her 3rd year of Essentials this year. And I have 2 sons. One is in his 1st year of Essentials, and the other is in Foundations. I'm the product sales specialist here in Georgia. I have been the product sales specialist in Chicago, Illinois, where I'm from, and I moved here in 2020. I also have directed Challenge A 3 times, and I'm currently an Essentials tutor. So I feel like I've had my foot in a lot of different places. So hopefully that means that I can either answer a lot of your questions or I can help find the answers to your questions. But today we're talking about Scribblers and Foundations Essentials. So let's get started. First of all, what is Scribblers? Scribblers is that age, that preschool age where, well, first of all, actually, let me back up a little bit. I do want to do a bit of a 5-minute overview of the trivium, which is what CC really bases the educational philosophy, classical educational philosophy on. So the trivium in its simplest form is basically child development stages. The first stage we call the grammar stage. I'm having a lot of vocal blah, blah, blah. Let me just do some vocal exercises or something, right? What is happening? Okay. So the first stage we call the grammar stage. The grammar stage is not really about grammar like English grammar or Spanish grammar rules or things like that, like parts of speech. When we are talking about the grammar stage, we're talking about the language of a particular subject. So the grammar stage of learning is when you are learning the vocabulary. You do this when you learn anything, right? If I go and I decide I want to learn dentistry, I have to learn what those tools are called. I have to learn what each tooth is called. I have to know what number the tooth is recognized as. That is the grammar of that subject. And so when we're talking about kids in the grammar stage, they're the youngest among us, and they are learning everything, the grammar of everything. They don't know what anything is already called, right? So that is the grammar stage of learning. The next stage is the dialectic stage. The dialectic stage is usually when a child starts to ask why. right? We recognize that as the dialectic stage. It's the stage of understanding what is going on, right? And so usually we put that right around 7 to 12 years old, something like that. And then we go to the rhetoric stage. The rhetoric stage is being able to teach it back, right? Being able to apply it, what you've learned, being able to connect the dots in different ways. It's really about engaging with the material at a deeper level and even being able to explain it to someone else. So those are the three stages that we refer to when we're talking about the Trivium. And that is a very simple, quick explanation of it. You should know that we are all always in all the stages, right? So when we talk about it as far as child development, yes, our younger children are in the grammar stage, and then a little bit older, they're in the dialectic stage, and then they're also in the rhetoric stage. But as I mentioned earlier, you might be a full grown adult and be taking on a new hobby. Maybe you're learning golfing, maybe you're learning crochet, and you are now in the grammar stage of golfing or the grammar stage of crocheting. And then when you've learned the terms, you've learned the basic skills, then you move into the dialectic stage where you can interact with it, question why, try to think through, how do I understand this? What is going on? And then when you are further along and you have developed some skills, and particularly when you are an expert in that field, you are in the rhetoric stage where you understand, you apply, and you can even teach it back. I like to call these three stages knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. Knowledge is gathering the information. Understanding is putting it together, and wisdom is applying it. So that is my own take on it. And that is basically how we coordinate or organize the curriculum through CC. Okay. So that being said, our grammar stage is the Scribblers and Foundation stage, right? So Scribblers is brand new. It's basically what we've been talking about for a few years as the pre-K, kindergarten, maybe first grade level. We talk about it as like 3 years old to maybe 8 years old, depending on the child's learning abilities or learning tendencies, right? Because we know that you might learn to read at 3, you might learn to read at 8. That's not better or worse. It's just unique. So we refer to the Scribblers somewhere around 3 to 8 years old. And I think maybe even sometimes 4 to 8. What I want to talk to you about real quick is the Scribblers Guide. It's a brand new guide. It just came out last year. It is amazing. Here it is. It's called Scribblers at Home, Recipes for Lifelong Learners. Okay, this is what you would purchase if you wanted to engage with your Scribblers. This book, this guide, is not a requirement to be involved in our organization, in our community, right? So this is not one of the required books. Scribblers is not an official class. We have an abecedarian class that uses the Foundations Guide that I'll talk to you about in a minute. But this is a wonderful supplement, and this is also a great standalone for people who just don't want to engage with the Foundations Guide just yet. Maybe you're not in CC, maybe you're in CC and the Foundations Guide is not quite enough. You can get through all of that in 30 minutes in a day, and you want a few more ways to engage with your student. This guide is spectacular. I love it. And let me just open it up and show it to you. So when you open up this book, every time any page, except for poetry, I'll talk about that in a minute. Any page you open up to, you're going to have an activity. It's called a recipe. It has the materials and the instructions and ways that you can do things over here. At the bottom, it has tips and hints. So you're going to read that as a parent. It's really wonderful. And then on the right side of the spread, there's always a chart. And that chart is meant for you guys to just observe and attend to. Look through it, talk about it, ask questions. Over here, you're going to see how this activity relates to this chart. And it's really spectacular because many of these charts are much further along than a 3 or 4 year old would ever be, right? I mean, I shouldn't say ever, but for the most part, they won't be able to really understand what's in this chart. And so you're just asking questions and attending to it. But this chart is going to show up later in the curriculum. In many places, this chart, for example, this one that I just happened to open to is the question confirmation chart. Okay, so we are in the phonics section of this guide, and this just happens to be the question confirmation chart that we use in essentials, which I will be talking to you in a little while about. Okay, so they will see this again and they will have been seeing it for so long. It will not scare them. It will not confuse them. It will not startle them. It'll be something that is familiar. So every single page has that kind of a layout. And there are multiple subjects. So this is phonics. There's literature. So here, just flipped open to any page. You have the activity, the tips and hints, and then a chart. This chart is the conflict chart. Obviously, when your child, before your child is really studying literature, that conflict chart may not make too much sense to you or them. But as you attend to it and studying it, it becomes more familiar. So I'll flip one more time to a math one. This one is arithmetic, right? And so we have another recipe for an activity. We have more hints and tips. And this is going to help you see how this activity relates to this chart. And this chart happens to be the multiplication chart. There are 9 different subjects and all kinds of activities in here that you can incorporate into your school. Okay. Poetry, the poetry section. This one doesn't have activities. It has actual poems that you sit and you read with your child. Some of them are songs from oral traditions. I remember opening up one day and we just started singing. It was like, there was a tree, the prettiest little tree that you ever did see. And so now my kids and I love singing that song. I had forgotten about it, but we used to do it when I was a kid. And now I was able to do it with my children. So that is the Scribblers Guide. Awesome, awesome, awesome book. I highly recommend it. And then on top of that, we have some really cool books that you can use, add to your library. So if you're like me, you love books and you love libraries and you're always trying to add to your library, I highly recommend that you surround your children with books they can go to the bookshelf and just ponder through, even if they're too advanced for them. But here are some that are not too advanced. Of course, we have some board books, so for the littles. So Lily Stays at Home. I don't know how my lighting is doing. Sorry. Lily Stays for School. Instead of Lily Goes to School, Lily Stays for School. This is a book about homeschooling. So that those of us who, you have the back to school books. Here's a wonderful back to school book, or a board book for your children. And then this one is my CC ABCs. This is basically just an ABC book, but the terms are CC specific. So I'll show you some. A is for astronaut, B is for Boston Tea Party, C is for Continental Congress. So when I say CC specific, I mean they are specific. We definitely cover these things in our classical conversations community. So D is for Davy Crockett and so on and so forth. Okay. We also have this awesome book. My kids liked these books when they were younger, especially when they were learning to read. We have these readers, Sounds of the Sea, On the Trail. We have these readers that you would love to add them to your library. So we have On the Trail, Sounds of the Sea, Soft and White, Fun in the Sun. This is the one I remember reading the most with my son. At the Farm, Scamp and Tramp. All of these are readers for young readers, and they have consonant clusters or vowel sounds that they focus on, as you can tell from the titles. Really great books to add to your library for your younger readers. So if you have a Scribblers age kid and you want to enhance their library, here are a few books that you can definitely look at. Okay. For parent preparation, maybe you are thinking about homeschooling and you are like, okay, what do I do? How do I, what is this CC thing? Something is, I don't know why this is popping up. Okay, that's enough of that. You don't know what you're doing. You're not exactly sure about classical education. Here are a couple of books that I do recommend. First of all, Classical Christian Education Made Approachable. Can you see that? Classical Christian Education Made Approachable. I think this is the best book out there that describes classical education. I should say this is the best book that I've read. I don't know all the books that are out there, but I've read this book more than once. Great reminder. I feel like we should read it at the beginning of every school year. Highly recommend that one. Echo and Celebration is another one. And then The Core. This is kind of the beginnings of CC, teaching your child the foundations of classical education. This is a great read for those of us who have littles, right? So I probably need to reread this book because I still have a 7-year-old. So those of us who have littles, this is a great parent preparation. I may do like a little read book club kind of thing here locally. Lee Borton's does do a book club every week. So you might want to go to leebortons.com and check out her book clubs. Archived recordings. You don't have to have read the book. You'll learn quite a bit about the book and what's discussed in the book. There are definitely recordings of the core, the question, and the conversation there, as well as classical education made classical Christian education made approachable, and Echoes and Celebration, which is a call. It says Echoes and Celebration, a call to home education. All right, so that is Scribblers and kind of parent prep and library help for foundations. So let's move to foundations. Foundations is our 4-year-old through 12-year-old curriculum. There are 3 cycles that we go through, we rotate through. I was just thinking today, we really need 4 cycles because I feel like some of this stuff should, let me just shout out to Lee Borton's. We need to go to 4 cycles so that we can really hit some of these timelines a little bit more. Just my idea. Anyway, randomness. So when I talk about our programs, I like to talk about the products in 3 tiers. So tier number 1 is you need this or you're not doing our curriculum. Like this is the curriculum. Tier 2 is you should get this. It will make your life easier. Trust me, just buy it. Tier 3 is this will be nice for your homeschool. You can do without it. Most people could do without it. You have to decide if that's something that you want to do without. Okay. So tier 1 for foundations is the foundations guide. You are not doing our curriculum if you do not have the foundations guide. Our foundations guide has all of our memory work in it. It has our artwork, our art activities, our music activities, all 3 cycles of our memory work and activities. It has our maps in it, and it has some amazing articles to help you understand the foundations of classical education. So this is really one of only 2 items that you will need in order to do foundations. The second one, my kids decided to come down and be loud while I'm doing my presentation, but hey guys, no. So the second thing that you're going to need is a tin whistle. A tin whistle. Now I know I have one, but I didn't pull it out. A tin whistle in the key of D. Those 2 things are what you will need to be involved with our community in the foundations level. Okay. In addition to that, I highly recommend those books that I just suggested as a great way for you to ground yourself in the classical education at those younger years. So again, that would be like tier 3, right? Those books would be tier 3. Tier 1 is a tin whistle and the foundations guide. And I would say tier 2, which is like, you really should probably think about how you want to do this. You can either do the flashcards, right? You can walk around with just your book all the time, right? Before review times, you're going to want to have some flashcards. This is just a sample, or you can make your own. You can also use the app. So there is a CC app that you can put on your phone to help you go through all of the memory work. Highly recommend that one. We use that one so that we don't have to carry everything around. And then this would be tier 2 as well. These are placemats. So for geography, we learned the cycle 1 is next year. We learn all about Africa. We learn about the world, all the continents. So on one side of this placemat, everything is marked. And then on the other side of the placemat, it's really no names, just icons to ask you what's right here, what's right here, what's right here, right? And so this is the Africa one. And as we go through and learn all the parts of Africa, right, we have the Sahara Desert marked over here, but it's not marked over here, and all those different things, right? So that is a tier 2. You can sit at the table. You can draw on these with dry erase markers, which for cycle 3 that we're in right now is really helpful because we're learning the trails and the bays and the sounds and the mountains and the hills and, all those things that it's just easier to just kind of mark, with a dry erase marker to review. So those are tier 2. And then tier 3 would be the books and the parent preparation books that I talked about for Scribblers. Okay. There's a few other things that I really think would be nice. They're tier 3. I'm mostly gonna grab these books that I think are foundations. It's foundations, maybe just foundations and into essentials. Um, we are we have these wonderful copper lodge library books, and we're building, if you're building your library, the Copper Lodge library books are amazing. So this one is Exploring the Oceans with Uncle Paul. These are read alouds that you could do with your children, especially as you're studying the different parts of geography, the oceans, exploring the heavens, so the stars with Uncle Paul. And then we have classic stories that are read alouds for your children. You could do read alouds with them and just attend to the different cultures that are represented in our world. And then for cycle 1, as we do ancient history, Senators of Rome is a great read aloud. Kings of Rome. I actually haven't read these. I haven't read these two. So I'm really interested in what they're going to do. I've thumbed through a lot of the other ones and read some things out of there. But these are supplemental. So this would be tier 3. And if you're like me, you want all the things like these books, you could just open them and just read along, read out loud to your kids at lunchtime, or read before, before or after an activity, just to settle them down. So I will put these in tier 3 of Scribblers and Foundations, and even maybe Essentials. And Essentials gets a little busy. So I know that it really is important to carve out time, because then they're moving on the challenge. And it's just so sad. Anyway, I have a rising challenge and I'm not ready. All right. So that is Scribblers and Foundations. And now we have a few more minutes and we're going to touch on Essentials. Essentials is my baby. I love Essentials because I love the English language. I forgot to show you this one prescripts. This is handwriting prescripts. So the memory work and stuff for cycle 1. This is a tier 3. Okay. I would put this at 2 or 3. It teaches cursive writing. The lighting in here is awful. I'm so sorry. Let's see. It teaches cursive writing. There we go. And they trace the memory work and then they rewrite it. So it's a really great way to do review as well as practice handwriting. All right. So lastly, we're going to talk a little bit about Essentials. Essentials is my baby because I love the English language and I love teaching my Essentials class. I keep picking up things that I forgot to tell you about. So this is, I would say this is a tier 2, right up there with the placemats for geography. We also have a trivium table for geography where they can dry erase and mark on it, and it's much more portable than bringing the entire book. So let me just look before I say anything else. All right. So now this is organized. And I want to move on to Essentials. Essentials is our writing and grammar curriculum and class. It is the essentials of the English language plus the Institute for Excellence in Writing, along with some math games to help with accuracy and speed for math facts. So those are the 3 things that we do in class on seminar day. Okay, so let's talk about what you need to purchase when you are enrolling your child in Essentials. Okay, let's see, do I have any comments? So let's talk about. All right, so first of all, you're going to need the Essentials guide. I have all my stuff laid out right outside here, so just 1 second. All right, so first of all, you're going to need an Essentials guide. Your Essentials guide comes shrink wrapped, and then you have to add it to a binder. Okay, it comes shrink wrapped, and it has all of the assignments, and it has all of the explanations that you will need all year. Okay, from weeks 1 to week 24. The way that this is going to come to you, it's going to come to you in 3 sections. So you could have 3 binders, or you could have just 2 binders, or 1 really big binder. Okay. There will also be tabs that you will need to place. So you're going to go through and look and say, okay, these are the pages for week 1. So I'm going to stick those behind week 1. Now so you have to organize the tabs and the pages into a binder. Okay. So when you get your Essentials guide, don't be confused. You're going to get 3 different sections. One is the guide, and it's going to say Essentials English Language Curriculum. That's your guide, okay? You're also going to get one that says Students, Essentials English Language Students. That is a master booklet of copies that you may want to make for your child to write on. And then you're going to get a third one that says Essentials English Language Solutions. And that is going to be a smaller one, a smaller group of pages. And that has all of the editing and diagramming and quid et quos, all of the parsing and all of that stuff, the solutions, so that when you're teaching and you give them a sentence to diagram or, you know, a group of words to parse, you have the answers in the solution guide. Okay. So that is the first thing. This is a tier 1. You need the Essentials of the English Language Guide and supplemental products in order to be enrolled in a community. Or when you're enrolled in the community, you need the guide, right, to do the work. So that's tier 1, Essentials of the English Language Guide. Very helpful. Another tier 1 is Teaching Writing, Structure, and Style from the Institute for Excellence in Writing. We do have a contract with them where we can sell their products in our bookstore. However, our products but we also our contract with them does not allow us to ever discount this curriculum, right? They don't give discounts on their website. They don't want us to give discounts on our website. So Teaching Writing, Structure, and Style is your second tier 1 product, okay? And this is basically your syllabus, okay? You're going to get from your director, from your tutor, a schedule for when you're going to do what unit, but this is going to take you through each unit. What is unit 1 about? It's about the keyword outlines, how to make notes. Unit 2, okay, once again, this comes shrink wrapped. This one does come with the binder. And then you come in and you organize it all the way through, and each tab is a new unit, and you will be discussing those units over the course of the school year, okay? What's the difference between the English for the Essentials Language and the Institute for Excellence in Writing? There is a lot of overlap. Well, there is some overlap, but the Essentials of the English Language is grammar, okay? You are deep diving into what are the 8 parts of speech: noun, pronoun, verb, adverb, right? You're going to learn all of that. What are the purposes of sentences? What are the structures of sentences? What are the patterns of sentences? Once you learn the names, the grammar of those things, you're going to then begin to move into the dialectic of those things, where you're going to be, how do I apply and modify a word with an adjective? What exactly does an adjective do? What does an adverb do? How do I recognize an adverb in a sentence? How do I diagram this sentence so that it will help me know if I have the correct parts in the right places? That is grammar. It will impact your writing, but it is not writing. You are not writing as a result of the English language curriculum, the Essentials of the English Language Curriculum. You are learning the parts of a sentence and the way that you put words together to create various purposes and structures of sentences. Okay, so for example, a compound sentence or a complex sentence that has a subordinate clause in it. Does it have is it an independent clause or a subordinate clause? Is it adjectival or is it adverbial? All those things that you're like, whoa, I don't know what that is. You're going to learn all of that step by step by step. Very small, incremental, and it's spelled out in your Essentials Guide. IEW, on the other hand, is a writing curriculum. They're going to teach you the dress ups, how to take a sentence like she went to the store and turn it into something that is much more impactful and clear and helps the readers all have the same picture. So while she was running breathlessly to the store, she encountered a clerk that helped her to find what she wanted, right? So now she ran to the store is a whole different sentence because you've added a subordinating clause, a prepositional phrase, a strong verb, a strong quality adjective. All those things are writing exercises. So we do Essentials of the English Language and we do writing with IEW. And the IEW curriculum that we use is Teaching Writing, Structure, and Style. Okay, so those are tier 1. You must have both of these products if you are enrolled in our essentials class. The third thing that we do in essentials is math mastery. So we play a lot of math games, and we do a lot of multiplying, and they're all games that we play. We play things like Math Battleship, National Number Knockout, multiplication races. We tend to not race one another. In my class, we tend to just race ourselves. And that, again, is for the purpose of increasing and improving accuracy and speed, right? So some things that you can do. Oh, this is for diagramming sentences. This is a tier 2 for essentials. Grammar and diagramming sentences. Our mother tongue is another tier 2. I think it's really helpful to have extra sentences and extra explanations in case you get stuck and you don't quite understand something. You can have another source where you can go to that. Let me make sure I'm not constantly jumping around here. Yeah, so that is essentials. Oh, and the Strunk and White. The Strunk and White, I highly recommend. I think I have 3 or 4 copies of that Strunk and White, because the first time that I got it, I was actually in college, because I have a journalism degree. So Strunk and White is just one of those stalwart resources that everyone should have in their home. So back to math. We do a lot of math games, so I highly recommend like buying some cards. I made my own cards, and even some people bought some from me because I wanted a stack of cards that just went from 1 to 15 with no jokers and no queens and no kings and things like that. Just 1 to 15, 4 different suits. So I highly recommend that you find some cards that will help you be able to play some games at home. We have our quick flip arithmetic book. That is definitely, and I would say that's a tier 3, but it's bumping up against a tier 2. And then we have our tables, squares, and cubes. I put this in a binder, but it has all the like instructions for multiplication drills and worksheets that you can copy to help drill your kids with all kinds of problems and just solidify their math facts. And then we have our math trivium table. That I highly recommend, especially for those who are tactile in your learning style and you need to see it and feel it and touch it and that kind of thing. We have the math, classical conversations math trivium table. Of course, it has our 100 chart on the front. It has our national number knockout game on the back, which is unique to CC. Solving algebraic equations up there at the top. It takes you through the processes. And then there is a larger multiplication number pattern. So you can see 1 through 15 instead of just 1 through 12 or 1 through 100. You see the multiplication chart here. And then there are just all kinds of, can't tell if I'm doing it right side up. Practice for addition, multiplication. These are the laws. We learn these. We memorize the laws, like the associative law and the commutative law. We have multiplication and division, naturals, whole numbers, integers, decimals, fractions, mixed numbers, percentages, and scientific notation, all on there. Man, let your kids study that, and I guarantee you they will not be scared of math when they get older. And join us at a math map conversation, because our new math map is really amazing. I'm really looking forward to when it's completely rolled out. I think we're going to be producing some high-end mathematicians, but that's another story for another day. This is a tier 3. I have to say it's a tier 3, but it's bumping up to a tier 2. Okay, I definitely think it's something that we should be considering. All right, I'm going to go back because, again, I did not talk about something that I think is a tier 2. Okay. And I think some might say it's a tier 1 for essentials, but you will have all of this information in your guide. It's just really handy and comes in just wonderfully well when you're talking to your students. So we have our trivium tables. Our trivium tables for essentials. This is chart A, and it has all of the purposes, the structures, the sentence patterns. This chart A is the cornerstone of our Essentials of the English Language curriculum. When you learn chart A, you are learning the entire curriculum on one sheet. And throughout the year, we're going to discuss each of these things in depth. So what does it mean for a sentence to be simple? What does it mean for it to be compound? What does it mean for it to be complex? What does it mean for it to be compound complex? We'll spend a week or more on each of these. Then we add those to the purposes of a sentence. What does it mean for it to be declarative, exclamatory, interrogative, or imperative? And then the patterns of a sentence. We're going to go week by week talking about subject, verb, subject with an intransitive verb, subject with a transitive verb that has a direct object. What about down here? Subject with a transitive verb that has a direct object and an object complement adjective. All of these things we're talking about week by week. The 5 parts of a sentence are here and the 8 parts of speech are here. This is what we're going to be doing all year. Okay. All of the other charts all are represented here on this chart. So we talk about nouns, pronouns, verbs, adverbs, conjunctions, interjections, prepositions, adjectives. We spend a lot of weeks deep diving verbs because the verb is like the heart of any language. We do a lot with nouns and the multiple different roles that a noun can play. It can be a subject, it can be a predicate noun, nominative, it can be an indirect object, it can be a direct object, it can be an object complement noun, it could be all kind there are 9 different roles that a noun can play. We want our kids to be able to not just recognize them for the sake of recognizing them, but being able to put nouns in those roles to enhance their writing, which is why we couple it with the IEW writing curriculum. And this is just one of our language, of our grammar trivium tables. We have the full chart A sentence classification. We have the nouns, we have the verbs, verb charts, and then we have all of our analytical tasks charts. So when we break down, we know the patterns, again, the patterns and the structures, the question confirmation that we saw in the Scribblers guide comes up again here on same guide. It's the same one, right? But now we are using it in essentials. So that through line is beautiful and I love that. All right. So that's it for the products. There are more that could enhance your homeschool. But for the products that I highly recommend, the ones that you need and the ones that I highly recommend, and then maybe some that would just enhance your homeschool in general, that is it for the Scribblers Foundations and Essentials level. Join me here again tomorrow where hopefully my mouth isn't doing all those crazy things. And we are going to talk about Challenge A and Challenge B, which for those of you who may not be familiar with the classical conversations grammar, is our equivalent of 7th grade and 8th grade. So today we talked about Scribblers, which is right around 3 to 8. Foundations is 4 to 12. And Essentials is 10 to 12. So in case you didn't know, you're watching this and you're not sure about all this CC grammar, our Essentials program is a 3-year program. So each student does the same does the same curriculum for 3 tours is what we call it. So the first tour, they're going to learn the basics. The second tour, they will get their understanding. And then the third tour is when it becomes rhetoric, right? They really grab a hold of it. So that is for 10, 11, and 12-year-olds. No, 9 and 10 and 11-year-olds. And then when they turn 12, they will head into the challenge program, which is 7th grade. Okay, so if you have any questions, things that you are dying to ask me, you can put them in the chat. I'll stick around and see if I can answer some of those. And otherwise, please join me tomorrow. You can join me live on Zoom if you want to do that with questions. So then you can ask me questions. Or you can just watch me on Facebook and YouTube. All right, I will talk with you guys. Have a wonderful